What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Vulkan, and today we are back in Darktide to continue our crusade to purge heresy. So this video is going to cover a lot of tips and tricks for new players, including some things that even veteran players might not have known. So with the holiday season coming up, some people may be getting Darktide as a gift, so I figured now would be a great time for this type of video. So we're going to keep things light and we're just going to jump right into this. So number one, this is something that I didn't realize for the first 10 or 15 hours in the game, and I'm seeing other people on Reddit say they're 40 plus hours into the game and they still didn't realize this was a thing, and that is inspecting weapons. So when you open your loadout and you click on a weapon, there is a inspect button down here at the bottom. This is something I don't know why I didn't see it earlier. Most of the time I was too busy pressing G to compare, but there's actually an inspect. And if you click on that, you get a ton of information about this particular weapon. You can see the name, its transcendent, all of the base stats, but you can also see the sprint speed, dodge distance, how many dodges you get, stamina, ravage, unstoppable. You get a little extra information about each stat down here as well. So there's just a ton of information in here that, like I said, is really nice to know. And if you don't know about this, you're shortchanging yourself. So that is tip number one. So for tip number two, we're sticking in our inventory and we're talking about discarding weapons. So this is something that a lot of people have been asking about is, what do you do with all of your excess weapons? Do you upgrade them? What do you do with them? Well, you discard them. And a lot of people have been, but one thing you might not notice is when you discard a weapon, it actually sells it back to the vendor. So here I have this regular kind of blue sword and I hit discard, hold it. And then here you can see I have some dockets added. So again, this is something that some people didn't really know about. So I figured now's a great time to bring it up. That way everyone can be on the same page and you can sell a lot of your junk for some extra currency. So sticking with the notion of contracts, I want to talk about how you can do those things a little bit more quickly. So depending on your difficulty right now, each mission could take roughly 30 minutes. So looking at the contracts, you're staring at a few hours worth of work in order to complete all of those. And that's something that some people simply don't have. And if you're someone like that, and instead you want to do as many maps as you can to try to get as many procs or monstrosities that you can, then you can always drop your threat level, which is your difficulty, from Damnation or Heresy all the way down to Uprising or Sedition. You don't have to stick on the hardest thing possible in order to do those contracts. For me, I had a very short period of time to make progress on my contracts. I dropped it down to Uprising. We were blasting through missions in roughly 10 minutes. And instead of doing 2 per hour, I was able to do roughly 3 or 4 per hour. And that was something that was incredible. And I was able to see a lot more progress on my contracts. And bonus, to maximize everything, make sure you look for missions that have a higher chance at getting hordes, a higher chance at getting monstrosities, by looking for the opposite of this. You want high intensity engagement zones instead of low intensity engagement zones. And to kind of build off of that, if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, I also would not do quick play, and I would instead pick and choose the missions you want. That way you can guarantee, okay, there's scriptures in here, or it's a high intensity engagement zone, so there's more monstrosities. That is just something to look into. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is crafting. So crafting is going to unlock early on for you, and once it does, it's like a whole new world to explore. Because suddenly you have the ability to take items that are green or blue and then amp them up into purple and orange items. And there's going to be a lot of temptation here to take that, that fancy axe that you really like and suddenly smash a bunch of crafting materials into it to try to get it to a transcendent axe like you see here. And that's great. However, the issue is if you have a low level item and you're wasting crafting materials on it, it's not going to be as valuable as you continue to level up. So the tip here is to save your crafting materials until you reach level 30. At that point, sort of pick what kind of build or play style that you want to go into, and then start looking for weapons or items that are going to be able to support that play style. So if you're looking for a crit-based zealot, look for things that are going to support a crit-based zealot build. And then at that time, you can start investing those crafting materials. because these things are hard to come by. Yes, they're plentiful in missions, but they don't increase by that much. So you don't want to go spend all of your crafting materials and then have to play for a few hours to try to rebuild your bank in order to upgrade another weapon. It's just not a good way to do it, and it's going to end up wasting more time and causing you more of a hassle. So the tip here, save your crafting materials until level 30, pick an item or a weapon that you really want to invest into, and then spend them all. So the next tip is a pretty basic one, and it's still one that I see even some veteran players fail to kind of maintain today. And that's understanding coherency and what each class brings to the table. So for instance, I'm a zealot preacher. So my aura is the Emperor's will, and this is going to increase our toughness damage reduction. So we're going to take less toughness damage as long as people are near me. And this only occurs in coherency. So coherency is an aura that surrounds each character. And as you group up and work as a team, you're going to benefit from the other auras of other classes. So really, this is a long way of saying, make sure to stay grouped up as you're going through missions. In earlier difficulties, you can go out and explore and be on your own, and you're not really going to have that big of a problem. But as you get into level 4 or level 5, especially Damnation, which is level 5, you're going to start having issues, and this is going to be a bigger emphasis because you're going to want all of these extra buffs in order to survive the hordes, the monstrosities, and the elites, because they're going to be even more dangerous. So make sure to understand what you bring to coherency, as well as keeping all of your allies close. So for our next tip, we're going to talk about the bolt gun and the plasma gun. Now, both of these have piercing shots. Now, this particular little stat here says the weapon's shots are effective against armor. Great. That means armored enemies are going to take more damage. That's very straightforward, in your face, and you understand it. However, there is a secondary thing that bolt guns and plasma guns have, and that is that they can shoot through walls. So if you have an enemy that's on the other side of a wall, you can fire through it and deal damage to them. Granted, it is a reduced amount of damage, but it's still damage. This is good if you're trying to run to an ally who's pinned down by a poxhound. You can start shooting your plasma gun or your bolt gun through the wall to continue to deal damage to that hound, maybe get them off, or shoot a tank through the wall or a barrel through the wall and cause an explosion. There's a lot of different ways you can use this, but it's something that I didn't know about until I was over 50 hours into the game. So this was a really kind of cool thing to see and learn, and I really wanted to share it with you guys. Now, the last tip I have is one that's in missions, and it surrounds objectives or things like the tanks, anything that you're carrying, like the batteries or the power cores for the med stations, anything you can carry and you can throw. So the cool thing with these objectives is that, yes, you can throw them. The other cool thing is other players can catch them. So if you're in a mission where you need to take power cores and you need to go up some stairs, up some more stairs, and then load those power cores in, instead of going all the way around, have one of your team members stand up on the uppermost level and throw the power core up to them. At that point, they can grab it and then they can go put it in, and it makes things go much quicker. Also, you're not exposing yourself as much to hordes and elites, and you're really kind of just making this whole process more efficient. A lot of people don't know about this, so I wanted to share it with you guys and give a quick example on how this works. So guys, that is everything. These are, like I said, 8 beginner tips and tricks to get people into Darktide and have an understanding of how things work in the game. Are there more advanced tips and tricks out there? Most likely. So I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. What other tips and tricks would you give new people coming into Darktide, and how would you help them along the way? Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.